we dive into meal prep in action, I want to let you know about our free masterclass for building wealth and creating lasting financial security. So if you haven't watched it yet, sign up for one this week. I'll leave a link in the description. And if you're excited about this video, please give it a thumbs up. It helps us continue to make free financial resources for you. And if you want to get notified when we release new videos, then subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything. All right, get ready to roll up your sleeves, sharpen your cooking skills, and learn how to embrace meal prep and the money-saving benefits that come with it. I'll see you in my kitchen. Hello, all right, it's a Monday evening. I just got home from work and on my way home did a shop for the things that we're going to batch cook tonight. So a few tips before we get into the actual batch cooking is one, pour yourself a drink. I have a little mocktail here to enjoy as we are batch cooking. And then think about what it is that you actually want to eat during the week. So I love having bone broth on hand. I love being able to make rice bowls for different lunches. I love having hard-boiled or soft-boiled eggs as a snack. And then I always want to make sure that there's a dessert. So we are going to have a special guest come teach you how to make batch cook a dessert for the week. Okay, so we are going to get started with bone broth as our first activity. So what I did was picked up a roasted chicken at the store. You can always roast the chicken yourself, but it's just going to take more time. And I'm using my Instapot to make the bone broth because then I can just let it sit. I don't have to think about it. And what I've done here is prepped the chicken. So I've pulled apart the bones and the meat. And what I really love about this is that you don't have to be super particular. I left plenty of meat on the bones, and that's just going to make the bone broth better. So you don't have to be particular as you're picking it apart. So first we're going to add the bones to the Instapot. And we're going to save this chicken to add either to the rice bowls or to have for a snack during the week, so that we just have on hand and get to put it right in the fridge. The other thing I add is mushrooms. So it's up to you if you want to add the whole mushroom. I prefer to save the caps of the mushrooms and cook them later during the week, and then I just add the bottoms of the mushrooms that I wouldn't want to eat anyway to the stock. So when you're making bone broth or stock, basically any leftovers in the kitchen as you're cooking during the week, I put them in a bag and I keep them in the freezer. So things like leeks, onions, carrots, like the ends of things, just put them in a plastic bag and then use them when you're making broth. So for example, I have onion skins here. That's a perfect ingredient for bone broth. So we're gonna add the onion skins, and then we're also gonna add an onion for flavor. The other thing that you want to add is herbs. So I have thyme growing in the garden outside, so we're going to add some thyme to our bone broth. If you have a bay leaf, you can add a bay leaf, up to you. And then we're going to fill it with water. So you'll see what we have going on. It's really beautiful. And we're going to fill it up to just past all of the ingredients. Not past the max line of the Instapot. Okay, so we have filled it with a good amount of water, and then the thing to add, the secret ingredient, is adding a little bit of apple cider vinegar. So just a splash, and that helps the flavor come out of the bones when you're making bone broth. And then we're going to turn it on, push broth, and press, and then it just starts. Done. So this is going, and I don't have to think about that again. That tells me it's going. And we don't have to think about that again, and we can cook everything else. So the next thing we're going to make is the rice, because that takes the longest. So I have here 2 cups of water in my pot. I'm going to add my cup of rice, and now a couple secrets for making really good rice. First is adding garlic. So I have a couple cloves of garlic here that I'm going to smash on their sides and add right to the other secret ingredients, they're not that secret. Olive oil. So you just make like a little circle on the top. That's plenty of olive oil. And salt. So I have probably like 2 big pinches of salt. And then we're gonna... Rice is a great base because it's super easy to make. And you'll see. So we're gonna let this boil, and then as soon as it's boiled, we're gonna simmer it on the smaller stovetop. Backing up to the sweet potatoes, because they're also gonna take a long time, and then I'll have a little bit more oven space to work with. So, these are sweet potatoes that have been cubed by my very strong and amazing husband. And I've added coconut oil and salt to the bowl already, and we're just gonna pour it out onto the pan. And I should have remembered to preheat the oven, because that would save us time. We're gonna get these ready and then we'll preheat the oven. So spread it out. Ideally, you want a little bit more space than I have on this, but it's gonna be fine. So, turn the oven to 400. So this probably looks like a large quantity of potatoes, and that is part of batch cooking, is I'm making more than I can eat in one serving so that I can eat these potatoes throughout the week. So that's why we're making a lot of them at once. So we're gonna pop these in the preheated oven. And we'll let those cook for about 45 minutes, and I'll test them along the way with a fork to see when they're ready. So the next thing we're gonna prep is the zucchini, which we're gonna barbecue. So another element of batch cooking is that you'll see as we're kind of taking over the space that we're using a lot of different appliances. So one of the creative ways I'm getting around this is we're gonna barbecue the zucchini, and that's gonna be great. Barbecued zucchini, you can just pick out of the fridge and eat it as a snack anytime, and it's delicious. So what we're gonna do is first I've cut this into little slivers, slices, and we're going to olive oil and salt them before barbecuing them. So olive oil them. If you have a brush, you can use a brush. Not necessary. You can also use your fingers. And then add some salt. And make sure you get the layer that is beneath. Alright, so those are ready to be barbecued, which I will take you outside in a moment to barbecue those. Okay, so now the rice is boiling, as you can see. So what we do at this point is I'm going to move it to the small burner in the back. So this allows us to really simmer it and not let it go overboard. And we're going to get it to a simmer, which is really going to turn it down to the lowest it goes. And we're going to cover it with a lid. And we'll let that sit for about 30 minutes. Next, we're going to do our soft boiled eggs. So now that I have the stove space, we're going to boil an inch of water in the bottom of a pot. And once this water's boiled, we're going to add our eggs and cook them for 8 minutes. So we have our rice cooking in the back. We have our water boiling for hard-boiled eggs. We have our sweet potatoes cooking. And now we are going to cook the tofu. So for the tofu, I have heated up coconut oil in the bottom of the pan. You can use any oil. You can use ghee, olive oil, avocado oil. And then we're going to add these cubes of tofu. I prefer extra firm tofu. And you're going to add it in a single layer to the pan. And the reason that's important is that we are trying to brown every side of the tofu once it is in there. Which we might be able to get away with. So occasionally you'll have to do it in 2 batches. I could probably squeeze it in. And this we're actually just going to let sit because we want to brown each side of the tofu. So we're going to do 7 minutes on this side and eggs to the small amount of water that's in this pot, and they're going to steam. So we're going to put them in and keep the lid on, and then I'm going to set my timer, really important step, don't forget, I'm going to set it for 9 minutes. It's really up to you, between 7 and 10 minutes, how soft you like your egg. I like my yolk to be just a little bit runny, so I'm doing 9 minutes. Okay, so our timer just went off and it's time to get the eggs. And what we're going to do now is, to stop them from cooking, we're going to put them in cold water. So, we have a cold water ready, and we'll add them to it. And you want to make sure that, especially with cooking it this way, that you let them set. So, you can't eat them right away. You want to let them cool off. I like to put them in the fridge and then have them as a snack later. So, next thing we're going to do is finish off the tofu. So now that it has browned on all sides, we can turn off the heat. And this is a vegan tofu, so our cheese is nutritional yeast. So what we're going to do is add nutritional yeast to the tofu while it's in the pot. And this gives it a really delicious, cheesy texture. And we'll stir around and then add soy sauce to it as the very last step. And here we have a really good stovetop tofu that we can then add to our rice bowls or eat as a snack anytime during the week. And in the meantime, we are going to cook our zucchini on the barbecue. Alright, so here we are cooking our zucchini on the barbecue. So I let the zucchini go a little bit too long on the barbecue because we were working on our tofu at the same time, but we're going to take a little trick from Julia Childs, who said, never be ashamed of what you made, and we're just going to call this blackened zucchini, and it still looks delicious. Okay, so we just took the sweet potatoes out of the oven, and everything is ready, and this is where the fun begins. So we have our rice bowl base, and then we're just going to add the toppings that we've cooked. So we have a little bit of zucchini, we have some sweet potatoes, we have the tofu, we have the perfectly soft boiled eggs that we just made, and then I like to add a bit of kimchi to the top, and some herbs, some cilantro from the garden, and then since I'm going kind of Asian with my rice bowl, I like to add sesame oil and rice vinegar, and then sesame seeds. And voila! We have dinner the night that we're batch cooking, or we have lunch any other day this week. And then with the leftovers that we've already cooked, I'll put those into Tupperware and have those ready to go in the fridge. And now for our special guest appearance, who's going to teach you how to make a really epic dessert.
Hello, Dow Jane. So this is a good dessert. It's also very sugar-free and good for you and easy to make. You just blend some chia seeds. I have 3 tablespoons of chia seeds blended into the coffee blender, and then 2 tablespoons of this cacao powder. It has no sugar in it. Just a dash of vanilla, a tablespoon of maple syrup, and I like putting some protein powder in there too, so it's just like a little bit of protein in the meal. And then whatever milk you have around, rice milk, settles up and it kind of makes this chocolate pudding that's really low sugar, super delicious. You can take little bites at a time, or you can just have it as a snack to go. It's really good.
All right, those were a few of my go-to basics, but now you have the tools and the mindset to take charge of your food budget and create delicious, cost-effective meals week after week. Remember, meal prep is not just about saving money. It's also about empowering yourself in the kitchen, fostering better eating habits, and gaining more time for doing the things that you love. If you're looking for more inspiration and want to read the book that made me start to love cooking, check out Tamar Adler's An Everlasting Meal, Cooking with Economy and Grace. I'll leave a link in the description below. Let me know in the comments if you'd be interested in more videos like this where I walk you through simple ways to save money every day. And if there are any specific topics you'd be interested in, let me know. And like I mentioned earlier, if you want to learn how to build wealth and create the life of your dreams so that you can have more time to cook or do whatever it is you love, check out our free masterclass. I'll leave a link in the description so that you can be on your way to financial freedom before long. Thanks for watching and happy cooking.
Say what you said.
I said, I can't get enough of this tofu. It's